Good afternoon, and welcome to another exciting episode of Super Sunday. Hello, Kishore. Can you just confirm to me that you can see me clearly and hear me very loud and clear? Hi, Swati. Welcome. Can anyone please confirm to me that you can see me and hear me very clearly? Yes, thank you, Kishore. Thank you very much for that confirmation. And let's dive right into our topic today. As all of you know, Super Sundays is all about sharing information, insights, a little bit of wisdom and learning to all those who are new business owners or just deciding to set up something on their own. In the past few episodes, we have learned quite a few things as to how to create a business plan, a little bit of tools, to how to get started with your idea. And there's one important aspect when it comes to business, and that is, how do I price my product or service? And that's exactly what we are going to talk about today, and that is your pricing strategy. Being in the marketing sector, I come across a lot of business owners who are a little bit of confused as to how they should cost or price their product or service. Well, it's very easy, right? You just need to have your cost price, you add a profit margin to it, and boom, wow, that's your sales price. But is it so easy? Is it so simple? Well, not. Easier said than done, right? There are a lot of factors that need to be taken into consideration when we sit down and price a product or service. In fact, pricing your product is much more easier than pricing your service, because when it comes to service, it's mainly that you're sharing time, you're selling time, you're using your time. So it becomes a little difficult to allocate a definite price, because every client that you come across has a different requirement. The time you spend on those people is different. Because suppose you have a business consultancy, the consultancy required by client A and client B differs, even though it's the same kind of service that you provide. But with products, it's a little bit easier. If you're selling a Samsung Note of a particular model is going to be same everywhere, right? It's not going to change anything much, other than if you want to bundle it with some service, some other features, or with some extra value addition to it. So it's easier to price or derive a cost of a product than a service. Many times when we are designing a logo, for example, for our clients, what happens is I give him a price. I say, okay, it's going to cost you 1,000 dirhams. And the response we get is, oh my God, this is so expensive. I can get it done in 100 dirhams. Wow. Then what do? Do you get into that mode where, oh, am I expensive? If somebody is doing it for 100 dirhams, where am I taking my business? Where am I taking my service? Now, to start off with the pricing strategy, there are a lot of things that you need to consider. And those are not something that are out of the way. It's not rocket science. It's very simple when you start looking at it step by step. When you start pricing your product or service, the first thing that you need to know is your pricing position. What is the perception that you want to give to your clients? Do you want them to say you're expensive? Do you want to say you're economical? Do you want them to say you're niche? Do you want them to think that you're a luxury? What is it? That positioning in the minds of the people, of your clientele, is very important when it comes to pricing. Second thing is the segmentation. Remember, a few episodes ago we were talking about targeting, we're talking about segmentation and positioning. Once you have gone through those 3 steps, that's another factor that affects your pricing. What is your target audience? Which is that segment that you're talking to? Your target audience might be all business owners. Yeah, but which segment are you talking about in terms of ticket size? Are you talking to those newbies who have limited resources? Then maybe you have to price your product or service a little at a lower range. But if there are some established big MNCs that you're targeting your product or service to, you can actually price a little higher because they have the resources to pay that kind of money for your product or service. So segmentation is another factor that you need to take into consideration when you are deriving or creating your pricing strategy. The third aspect is the capability. Are you capable of sustaining that price? If so, for how long? For example, we have a pricing strategy called loss leading. Now, what happens in a loss leading is you're selling something at a loss so that you can sell something else at a higher price. Now, in this scenario, is my entity, is my organization, is my company capable of sustaining that small loss to gain a bigger profit? So capability of your organization also needs to be looked at. And the most important aspect is the market itself. How many competitors you have and what kind of pricing are they putting it for? Hi Priya, welcome to the session. Nice to have you over. So when you are talking about creating a pricing strategy or deriving a cost or a price for your product or service, these 4 aspects need to be considered. And as you've seen, I've spoken about price positioning, I've spoken about price segmentation, about the capability of your organization, and of course the competitive market. What are your competitors priced at? Who are you competing with for pricing? These 4 aspects, you have actually done the homework well before when you really started to put in the business plan, because these are the aspects of a business plan. That's the reason I always harp about this. If you're getting into a business, please start off with a business plan. Start off with a strong foundation, because all the strategies, be it marketing, be it branding, be it pricing, be it your sales, everything is based on this strong foundation of a business plan. Coming back to the pricing. Pricing is so simple, as I said, right? You have a cost price. You have some profit margin added to it. And voila, it becomes your sales price. And that's what you sell. But you have so many product lines. You have so many different services. Each service needs to be priced independently of the other. If it is complementary services, then they become a bundle. So all these aspects, as you move forward, become very much important. Now, talking about pricing strategy in 15 to 20 minutes time is like trying to teach you to fish out a needle from a haystack. It is very customized kind of approach. It is kind of getting to know your business better for you to come up and derive a price point. It is not something that can fit one size fits all. Not possible. It has to be very, very business, product, service specific. But at the end of the day, it's all about the commercial of having your cost price, adding a profit margin to it, and deriving at a sales price, which actually can build up your expected or desired revenue. Welcome, Dr. Shambhavi. Nice to have you on my session, and your inputs to my session would be wonderful. So if you have something to add, please do put it in the comment box. There are n number of pricing strategies for new businesses, for businesses that are a little mature, businesses that are well established. Each one has its own way of going about finding the right kind of price point, an ideal price point, I should say, and taking it forward. But let me today focus on new business owners who are a little bit confused as to how I should price my product or service. What is the ideal pricing point for what I am offering to the market? So if you are a new business owner, and if you have started off on a positive and a strong note of putting together a business plan, creating a pricing strategy, planning out and implementing it is not a big deal. Yeah, because you have already worked on your positioning, segmentation, and your competitive market while creating the business plan. So a lot of information is already available, readily available. When it comes to deriving a price or a cost for your service or product, you need to understand the first thing is your fixed and your variable costs, because that's what derives the cost price of a product or service. Fixed price, fixed cost that goes into creating that particular product or service. A variable cost, add to it your cost of labor, your profit margin, and then that's where you derive your sales or retail price. That's what you are going to promote when saying, okay, my service or product is priced at so dollars or dirhams. The second thing that you need to look at is, of course, what your competition is doing. And when I mean competition, it's not only the direct competitors, because that's one thing that's going to be really a big challenge and obstacle when it comes to a sales pitch. A lot of times you will hear people saying, oh, you're very expensive. How are you going to justify? How are you going to tackle that question? It's very important for you to be ready with an answer, a justified reason to tackle that obstacle. Because wherever you go, whatever service or product you are offering, there's always going to be a market where it's going to say this is costlier. Or sometimes you might have priced it so low that people might not think it is just as valuable as it is. They might think it is not an exclusive. They might not think it's a premium product. So right pricing in the right market is very important. When I say right market, that means I'm talking about your ideal client. If you are not pitching to your ideal client, there is always going to be a concern of cost. A lot of times we advise our clientele that please, whatever product or service you have, please have 3 variations of it. One, that is a minimum viable solution which a customer can easily buy. One, that is an ideal product or a service with an ideal price point. And one that is at a premium level, where you add it with a little bit of features, value addition, so that you can demand a little higher premium. But when you're promoting, you promote the mid-range one. So if there is a clientele who says you are expensive, you can always give him a minimum viable one. And if somebody is saying, oh, you're too cheap, I don't think it's adding any value to me, you have something to sell them at a higher price point. So we usually try to push this kind of a pricing strategy wherein any product or service has 3 variants in price point. When you're comparing yourself with uh, competitors, specifically on a price point, please make an apple to apple comparison. Yeah, you I had this client about a few months back, wherein they were they were importing, I should say, mangoes into Dubai, and they had a cost which they said was a little higher than the regular market price. The way they handled it was saying that this is not only air shifted, but this is also naturally ripened mango. It does not have any chemicals aiding it for its ripening process. Hence, it is priced at a little higher level. The kind of clientele they were looking at were also very specific, even in terms of location, who were ready to pay that kind of a price for a premium mango. So you need to know in which market you are putting or promoting your product or service. Is this market viable? Does it accept this kind of a pricing? If they accept this kind of a pricing, what is the communication that needs to be put forth in my advertising, in my marketing, to make sure they understand the difference or the premium of price point? This becomes very important in pricing. So you need to know your competitors' pricing. If you're comparing with your competitors, it should be apple to apple, and if not, at least you should have a market idea to know that this kind of a demand does exist, and this kind of pricing is acceptable in the market. The third aspect is, of course, the differentiation, and that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the mangoes. Differentiating yourself from your competitor. When I start differentiating even though I am mango to mango, what is the difference between their wear and my wear, it becomes important to put it in the communication and push it forward, so those kind of premium pricings are acceptable. In fact, in pricing strategy, we have n number of pricing strategies depending on if you're new. I'm talking about new business owners. So you talk about penetration pricing. That means we price something at a very lower end and try to build up demand for it, so that we have the awareness and the visibility in the market, and we get volume sales happening. Usually what happens is when we start pricing up, we do something called a retail strategy, wherein we have got a retail price, where we say, okay, this is my cost price, this is my margin, and this is my sales price, and that's the end of the story. Sometimes we do key pricing. Key pricing comes with a premium. For this kind of a pricing, you should have a very, very well versed idea of the market, because if your market is not acceptable to this kind of a service at this kind of a cost, everything might go just south. Sometimes we offer bundles, and you see this a lot in at the FMCG level, wherein for example, you have a shampoo and you get a conditioner with it, and the two of them are sold together at a price. But when they are sold separately, they are still sold at the same price. For example, like I have a shampoo that's 10 dirhams, I have a conditioner that's at 10 dirhams. I put them together and I sell them at 18 dirhams. What happens in this? I make a sale, I make sure that I'm making a profit, I make sure that I have got unit volumes being sold in bundle, rather than selling two separate things. And yet if they are sold separately, they come at a little higher price point. So selling at a little lesser price point and two together makes it better option than selling them separately. You have something called loss lead, as I spoke before, selling something at a little loss, but then I should have the capability of sustaining that small loss to make something sell. For example, I would give idea of jams. A lot of my examples will be coming from the retail industry, because that is quite a dynamic industry when it comes to pricing. Very, very volatile. We have to keep on to the pulse of the market day in and day out to understand how to price a particular thing at any given point of time. That's why I use a lot of examples when it comes to pricing from the FMCG or the retail industry. So these are different kinds of pricing strategies that business owners use to price their services or their products. You can actually use permutation and combination of all these things. It just does not mean that if I have put one strategy in place, I have to live by it. I can't change it. It's not carved in stone. You can change your pricing strategies for a reason or for a season. That's what I like to say, because we do a lot of promotions when it comes to specific periods in a year. You have the DSF, you have the DSS, you have now the Expo coming, you have so many sales going on. So each of this can be singularly stand-alone opportunities to create and implement a pricing strategy, be it at a B2B level or a B2C level. Whatever your price is, be it low, be it high, be it premium, be it niche, make sure that you have a fair idea. You are pricing it for the client. In this entire transaction, make sure that when you are transacting this pricing, you are, or your business is making money. It's not going into loss. If the basic formula you look at, that okay, I have a cost price which includes my fixed and variable costs, my labor cost, and I put a markup of my profit margin. That's what my sales price is, and this is what I'm going to sell at. Now the profit margin can be 5%, it can be 45%, or it can be 100%. It does not make a difference as long as you are not making a loss. It should not be a loss, and that's one of the biggest challenge when it comes to services, of how we avoid making a loss. Because when it's come to services, we are talking about not something that is from point 1 to point 2. It's quite intangible kind of a asset that we are putting across, and that's time. And when it's about sharing, selling, and utilizing of time, many times it so happens that you say, okay, this job is a 2 hours job and it takes 4 hours. That means I should be ideally asking my client to pay for 4 hours, but I kind of messed it up, and I just said, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours, and this is the 2 hours that you need to pay me for. In these scenarios, we have something else to add to it to try to mitigate that loss, and that is a strategy where we are kind of it's a combination of scheming and a combination of trying to utilize, or I would say disregard the time commitment that I'm going to make to this particular assignment. And this is very, very important in services. How can I make it a little more simpler for you to understand? I can't think of an example right off the cuff. Can somebody help me with a nice example for this? How can I mitigate the risk of utilizing the time right. Okay, yeah, let me talk about this. My own studio. In a studio, if I give a job, I say this job is going to take 4 hours. 4 hours of a studio cost is around 400 dirhams. 4 hours, 400 dirhams. So that is around 100 dirhams per hour. Now if this job just goes a little haywire and takes about 5 hours, so how do I try to make sure that I'm paid for that 5th hour? Now this kind of a situation does not arise in a product, because once you've given the product, you get paid for it. But when it comes to services which are quite time bound, this kind of things do happen. So you have it in your service document or your contract saying that, okay, your additional hour is going to be priced at maybe 80 dirhams per hour, even though you are charging 100 dirhams. Your cost is 100 dirhams. You make it into your contract that you might charge a little extra, and that's what exactly we do. We say, okay, if this goes a little extra, then this is going to be paid. But then you have to have kind of some caveats in place. For example, okay, I'm going to do 2 variations. You set the expectations right. Yes, you price with a contingency in place, and that actually happens in the service industry a lot because we do contractual stuff, right? In IT, yes, Kishore, we do give trial periods. Yeah, when you say, okay, this is a trial. If you like it, yeah, you can pay it after, and then you make sure that the entire amount, yeah, is considered as a payment, considering even the trial period. So this kind of things can be put into play to mitigate the risk of loss, and especially in the service industry. I have received a lot of responses from coaches where they are so confused about how to price themselves right, and that's where we always advise them to put it in black and white, saying that, okay, this is my cost, this is what you're going to be charged, but if it goes overboard due to some unforeseen reasons, then this is going to be my next level of pricing. So it's very important to consider these aspects of pricing in all. It's a 360-degree view to start off with. Pricing is basically a huge topic. You cannot, I cannot compile and say I can talk about the pricing strategy in 20 or 15 or 30 minutes. Each of the aspect needs to be taken into consideration at its specific product or service level. The way you price products is different. The way you price services is different. The way product category itself can be priced against another category, that differs. It differs from organization to organization, but at the end of the day, the basic principles still remain the same as in, you need to know your pricing position, you need to know your pricing segment, you need to know your capability of holding that price for n number of duration, n number of days, and most important, you need to know about what your competitors, your direct competitors are doing, and what is the market demand. All these things put together, of course, takes a lot of efforts on the level of management, the sales, the marketing, the operations. And that's why I keep on harping about this. If your business plan is laid out very accurately, very specifically for your business, your product and your service, then these things at a later stage, when you come to the pricing point, becomes much more easier. It's not something that cannot be taught. It's not something that cannot be implemented It can be. But if your foundation, if your homework is right, it's a cakewalk. Otherwise, the confusion will persist. You will have, at the sales pitch level, a lot of obstacles if your pricing is not right. We always say in a sales pitch, put your benefits first. But if it's a price sensitive market, what happens? If it's a price sensitive product, what happens? Yeah, you create, even before you have started, you have actually raised concerns in the mind of your clientele. We'll talk about pricing in detail, specifically when it comes to products, when it specifically comes to services, in our later episodes. But for today, I have just this much, because there's so much that's going in my head, and I want to say more. I want to lend something more in terms of value to our session, but sometimes an overload also is not very good. If I need to just ping Priya, are you going to do a session today evening, or are you off? Yes, Priya is going to be there in the evening. So please do not forget to tune in at 6:30 for a session with Priya, with WhatsApp with Priya. Unfortunately, I do not have her topic. Priya, if you can share the topic in the comment box. Oh, yes. She talks about digital marketing trends in 2021. Today, I'm not going to be watching Priya live, but Priya, I'll make sure I watch you in the replays, because they are fantastic sessions. They add value to my knowledge as well. So let's sign off for today and meet again next Sunday 2 p.m. on the same platform with another exciting episode of Super Sunday. And do not forget to tune in 6:30 for Priya. Till then, bye. Till then, bye from me here. And how do I close this? Okay.